BS-Free Witchcraft is a production of the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. Nerd and Tie produces podcasts ranging from actual play to true crime, and you can find more at nerdandtie.com or join our Discord by going to nerdandtie.com/Discord. Welcome to BS-Free Witchcraft, your monthly guide to the modern witchcraft movement. Minus a lot of the usual, well, bullshit. I'm your host, Trey Dorn. It is June of 2026, and we got a lot of talk about this episode. We're going to talk about two very unrelated topics, both of which probably deserve their own episode, but honestly, they were such on my mind that I decided I'm just going to talk about them both, and maybe down the road we do something expanded on both of these topics. But for right now, I really want to dig in and get my thoughts out, because there's just a lot going on. Before we get to that, though, just a little bit of housekeeping up top here. Please remember that July is our annual feedback and Q&A episode, where I answer questions from listeners like you. Or I also respond to feedback about the show from listeners like you. And so to do that, I need your questions. I have a couple, but not enough. So, if you have something you're willing to send in, please do so by July 10th, 2026, because this is for the 2026 July 10th episode. Send them in at bsfreewitchcraft.com/contact. Fill out the form there, and I will get to them. I will hopefully read your question. I will answer them. Do not include any information in your message that you're not comfortable with me reading out on the show, obviously. And I will anonymize. I don't mention names when I do these. So I want to be very clear. Send me your stuff. I want to see what you want to know, and I want to tell you what I think. It's a fun episode. I do it every July. We've been doing it since the first year of the show. So it's the one consistent thing I have not gotten rid of. So there's that. Again, bsfreewitchcraft.com. Go to the contact form there. Send me your stuff. Secondly, unrelated to witchcraft, like unrelated to real witchcraft, I will say that if you are a reader of my novels, the queer urban fantasy series, the Mia Graves Saga, Book 5 is coming out in August 10th, 2026, The Perfect Host. It's kind of wrapping up an arc of the first 5 books, so think of this as a season finale. There will be more books coming, but this is kind of completing several major arcs. So if you want some fun queer urban fantasy, it's a great time to start the series. I don't know. You can find links in the show notes to that. I won't talk about my books anymore. Don't worry. I mean, I'll talk about them in the future, just not in this episode. Right. All right, so we're going to talk about 2 topics this episode. The second topic is going to be just some more notes about like chaos magic from the previous episode, because I had a few more thoughts about chaos magic, kind of built off of the topic of reviewing, Thumper's book last month. But before we get that, we're going to talk about our first topic, which is probably a little bit more important and timely, at least for the American witches in my audience. The first topic we're going to talk about is the fuckery going on with the U.S. government and the U.S. military specifically. Earlier this month, it was revealed that the Department of Defense, for the first time in a decade, has dramatically reduced the number of recognized religious faiths and belief systems by about 180. There were over 200 recognized religions before, and now I think we're looking at, technically they say 31, but like 20 of them are literally just flavors of Christianity. So besides a huge swath of Christianity and Mormonism, which got split out from Christianity, much to the anger of the Mormons, the other religions, agnostic, Baha'i, Buddhism, Hindu, Islam, Judaism, no religion, other religions, and Sikh. You may notice a religion that's a little important to me. and that is Wicca. Wicca is not on this list. Now, obviously people are fighting this. There's a lot of anger over this. The restructuring of faith codes, which, like they help, follow, like, religious planning has always, like, included things like Wiccans and Norse pagans and Druids and, other types of churches. Like, Unitarians aren't even listed in there. That's how ridiculous this is, that Unitarians aren't even listed. But the Wiccan community fought long and hard to get recognized in things like the military, and the current estimates that there may be up to 20,000 Wiccans currently serving in the U.S. military. The estimates range right around the same number as the amount of Jewish people serving in the U.S. military. So clearly this is not a numbers game. There are significantly more self-identified Wiccans in the military than there are members of the Baha'i faith, but the Baha'i faith is included, and we are not. Anyone on the fringes is not, and the fact that the vast majority of this diverse list are flavors of Christianity. It's flavors of Christianity and people who it is too politically unacceptable for the current version of the Republicans to technically exclude right now. Because, India would have a problem with us if Hinduism wasn't recognized. Make no mistake, though. This exclusion, this removal, all of this is not about us specifically. This is not about attacking Wiccans, although I'm sure that it is a very bad thing for Wiccans to have the ease of accommodations just stripped from Wiccan and heathen service members. But this is effectively a sign of Christian nationalism. They want to make it just Christian. And this is an attempt by people like by the Trump administration and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to push us towards a Christian theocracy, and it is bullshit. That is not what this country is built on. This country, the fact is, the First Amendment is there for a reason, but it's angering. Like, we're the easy ones to kick off the list, right? Like, even though we're a significant portion, we're still a small group, right? Like, we're a small religion. I don't have the current estimates in front of me, but I think at most there's only a couple million of us in that are around in the United States. It is still a significant proportion of, it is significant for a minority religion, right? Like, there are way more Jewish people than Wiccans in the world, but there are about the same amount in the U.S. military. So it is difficult to explain how frustrated I am with this. And make no mistake, we're just the easy ones on the list, because the playbook of fascists is always to go with the targets that no one will care if something happens to them. We see this happening with the Republican Party attacking trans people. Happy Pride Month. We see this in all sorts of ways. The way that they're going after immigrants immigrants to the United States have it the worst right now. I don't think that it's immigrants right now. I'm not going to rank them. I was covering the whole list of people. I just kept thinking of more awful things, like it's not great for black trans women. It's not great for a lot of people. So, I don't want to say that this is the canary, not the This is the first sign, the first flag, the encroaching thing. But I've been talking about this privately since 2016. Since November of 2016, I've been talking about what a disaster this entire situation would be, and it's going exactly where I thought it would go. It's going exactly where I said it would go, and one of the most unsatisfying being rights in the world is right now. But it is true, regardless of the end game, the fact that this is a push towards Christian theocracy and a fascist government, it is not great in general for any of us. So, awesome. It's just so frustrating when your community spends decades fighting for something, fighting for inclusion, to have it stripped away by a drunken asshole idiot. I'm fine calling Pete Hegseth a drunken asshole idiot. He's a drunken asshole. Pete Hegseth is a drunken asshole idiot. He's not a serious man. Like back in December 2025, Hegseth said he wanted to make the Chaplain Corps great again. He wants a top-down cultural shift. He is looking specifically to make this a Christian army, a Christian military. Sorry, Navy and Marines. Not really sorry to the Space Force. And to the Air Force, I am sorry, but not really to the Space Force. Is the Space Force still a thing? Are we still doing that? I don't remember. It's so hard to keep up with the things they forget. Yeah, it's a push towards Christian nationalism. We're just the socially acceptable targets on the list. The good news is that I don't think this is going to stick. I think there's going to be enough pushback, and this is something we can fight against, but it is disheartening and frustrating, and it makes me mad. It just pisses me off. It fundamentally makes me so angry because in the end, when they move us off the list, they can move the next people off the list because we're the easily forgotten. We're the socially acceptable ones to exclude. We're the weirdos. I mean, look at me. If you are watching or listening to this podcast, you are probably a weirdo. Statistically, I may be wrong. I may be incorrect. However, I'm betting that if you are a fan of mine, you're weird. I'm a massive nerd making a witchcraft podcast in the middle of the night in my home studio, which is a fucking mess. I mean, I didn't even realize that the edge of that box fan was in shot until just now. If you're watching the video. If you're not watching the video, no, my office is perfect and clean and neat and in no way a monument to entropy. This is something that will be challenged. This is something that's being challenged. This is on constitutional grounds that's being challenged. They're not even hiding anymore. The mask is off. This is the hopefully flailing death throes of an administration, not of the people, of an administration. I will never be given that man will outlive me just to make me mad. They'll prop him up with artificial robot parts if they have to. Because, yeah, once old age sets in, I mean, they need their figurehead, so they're going to do everything they can, and that is we just mostly need to get him out of office. Vote in the midterms, folks. Let's flip Congress. That's the hope. And yeah. So, anyways, I know that wasn't particularly articulate. I just had to express how frustrating this is. Like, it took so much effort for our community to gain recognition and to be so easily forgotten and discarded. It is disheartening. It's frustrating. And, like, I'm a member of the queer community. I'm a witch. But the fact is that, like, if it weren't for the fact that I say things publicly, although, let me tell you, this platform's so small that ain't nobody paying attention to me. Heck, don't get me wrong, I appreciate everybody who is paying attention to me, but the fact is that I'm not going to be the one put in danger by this, and I'm not the one who's not going to get my services from this. I'm not in the military. I've never been in the military. I guess my wild take is that I believe that people who are in the military should be offered the religious services of their faith and accommodations for their religious practice. I think people should have the accommodation for the religious practice. There's this thing called the First Amendment. Okay, that's the first topic. I'm not going to talk about this more because I really am just going to go in cycles of rage, and I've gotten to the point of anger where I'm just going to sit, like, silently staring into the middle distance, which I'm pretty sure that doesn't make an interesting podcast. So we're going to move on to the next topic, and that is, of course, chaos versus eclecticism. So I talked about this briefly in the previous episode when I was talking about Thumper Forge's new book, the Golden Apple, in my review of that. But I think that eclecticism is... I'm an eclectic Wiccan, right? When I came up, solitary eclectics were the most common type of witch. Like, we are definitely the most common type of Wiccan still, and have been for a very long time. And the ethos and structure of eclectic Wicca is often, whether it is labeled as Wicca or is practiced as Wicca or not, the framework of that psychology, at least, is the blueprint that makes up the majority of the modern witchcraft movement, right? The idea that we, it is what some have referred to as a taker culture. But it's where we take magic and practices that work for us from maybe disparate places and incorporate them into our own practices, assembling something unique and new. Now, when done respectfully, this can be great, right? Like, obviously, like when we talk about like open and closed cultures and communities and the state of an oppressor versus historically oppressed group, when you come from the majority versus minority, and who has a closed tradition and who does not have a closed all of that stuff becomes a complicated set of nuances that you do have to navigate if you're going to practice eclectically. But the fact is that anyone listening to the show at this point, unless this is your first episode, knows that we are always trying to navigate these nuances because we're trying not to be assholes. Now, what's interesting is that sometimes when we talk about, and this was pointed, I actually got me thinking about this, was Thumper Forge in a TikTok just happened to mention this, that it was either that or it was a clip from someone else's podcast that they appeared on. But I saw it on TikTok, so it counts as a TikTok. Anyways, he pointed out in a discussion that with, again, the popularity and rise in popularity of the term chaos witch, which really comes about from pop culture, A lot of people heard the term from the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Scarlet Witch. Then there's no shame in that, who heard the term Chaos Witch and Chaos Magic and decided to incorporate that without really necessarily looking into it. A lot of them are using the term to treat something like eclecticism, which is very different than the philosophy of chaos magic. To practice chaos magic is, as we mentioned last episode, Thumper greatly explains in their book, but it is the idea that you are not adapting the practice to your beliefs or to you. You are not changing the action or the spell or things like that to you or adapting that. Like, you might see someone like will swap out a god in a thing because they're a devotee of, Thor and not, Dionysus, things like that. The idea with chaos magic, to truly actually do chaos magic, is to actually adapt yourself to the belief while you are doing it, right? So if you are doing a practice if you're doing a spell that is steeped in, I'm just going to randomly pick a pantheon. I have no example spell in my head. I'm just randomly picking Hellenic, right? I'm picking Hellenic paganism, right? If you are doing a spell that, and I don't know enough about Hellenic pagans to know if there are any like fully established spells within that framework or if it's adapted from other stuff or any of the things, but we're just saying it, right? That if there is a spell you want to do that is firmly based within the confines of Hellenic paganism, right? Because that's a open practice, so like it's safe to, like, I'm not offending anybody. I'm sure I'm offending somebody. I always offend somebody, but probably not with this. The idea is that while you are doing that thing, you are fully believing in the stuff you're saying and doing, and you are taking on that belief system onto yourself while you do that act or practice, and that is chaos that is what we mean when we talk about like doing chaos magic versus eclectic magic, eclectic witchcraft, which comes from the idea of hodgepodging your stuff together and your belief structure and things like that, but you're adapting those things to you, not you to them. These are very different ideas from the outside. That these practices can look very similar, right? Like, from the outside, what an observer may see is a person who is practicing spells, practices, traditions that come from disparate cultures and communities. However, how that practice looks from the inside is very different. And I think that in a world where people glom onto the newest fad, which we have been living in since the birth of this movement, so please understand, that may have sounded critical, but it is not intended to be, because I am always the, like, embrace your phase. Embrace it. I am a firm believer that everyone should be trying shit out to figure out what's right for them at least some stage in their life. So, like, I'm not being critical. But from the outside, these two practices look very different. And, like, we have to examine... From the outside, they look the same. God, this is what happens when I literally record at 11:50 at night. I words good, I promise. Support me on Patreon so I can get more sleep. People often look at the aesthetic of thing when they're doing stuff, and so when the aesthetics of chaos witchcraft and eclectic witchcraft may externally look the same, when these very different philosophies appear similar, I think that there are a lot of people who are calling themselves chaos witches today who are really practicing eclectic witchcraft. And I want to say, just call yourself an eclectic witch. Fucking hell, man. Like, if you're not practicing chaos magic, don't call yourself a chaos witch. Now, I'm not in your head. I'm not in your house. I can't make you do shit. This is more of a maybe consider it. Think about it for a minute. Maybe it'll be clearer to everyone what you're talking about. Like, I understand we have linguistic drift, right? Like, even the term chaos witch is new. Like, it traditionally was chaos magician or chaot. Like, these are the words you expect to hear along with the word chaos, not witch. I mean, I'm sure somebody did it. Like, this is the thing. There are moments whenever I'm talking about stuff where I say that's not and then like I immediately have to go like, well, no, I mean, someone had this idea at some point. Obviously, like statistically, there's enough of us where some guy did a thing, right? One of the biggest problems I have is that we have linguistic drift because a lot of people get into witchcraft without really seeing the history anymore. I think one of the greatest losses that we have are things like Witchvox. See, it used to be that online meeting places came attached to all of this history and documentation. So when you went to the places online where people were just chatting, and when like a new witch would get into it or something like that, inherently, whether they chose to read it or not, like whether you go into a store, talk to the community, or like anything like that, you would be surrounded with information you had access to, right? Like, you would have that at your fingertips. But with the witchcraft boom over the last few years, I mean, last half dozen years, really, a lot of it's been driven by very visual social media. Like, I'm on TikTok. Like, I've been on Instagram. I don't use Instagram. You can see exactly how pathetic my follower count on Instagram is to see how little I use Instagram. But, like, these are very visual-driven platforms, aesthetic-driven platforms. Like, even when things were on Tumblr and the discourse could get ridiculous, you would still be dealing with discourse and walls of text, right? Now, and I think this has been the big shift, is that since our online spaces have moved to visual spaces, there's so much of a focus. Like, aesthetics have always been a thing, and like there's a reason why the seed of the show was like I wanted to do a witchcraft show minus the focus on the aesthetics, as that's what launched this. And then of course I expanded my definition of bullshit by a country mile. But like, the idea is all this is moved to very shallow, though, right? Because what happens is that, and we see this in the drive. So regular witchcraft media has the perpetual beginners, like everything's like in materials are always going to be slanted towards beginners, because people who start out buy the most stuff, right? So that's why most witchcraft books, the vast majority, like 90% to 95%, I'd argue, are focused on beginners, new witches, people learning how to do stuff for the first time. And that is because those are the people who will give you money. First off, there's way more beginners than everybody else, because like all things, and this is part of like my argument that everyone should try everything out, because everything like you should be willing to. That means that you're going to get a bunch of people who are starting out as beginners who do not stick with witchcraft, right? It does not become a calling for them. It does not become like a core part of themselves. They try it out, they do stuff for a little while, and they go, nope, not for me. And that is cool. Like if that, like, yeah, sure, that's normal. But if we are in that situation where so if you're selling a book, right? If you're selling books, that's the target demo you want to get, because that's the most people. Those are the people who are specifically looking to try things out and learn things, right? But that means that all your media is going to be slanted towards beginner. We see this in social media, right? Like, because, again, most of the people interested in the topic are beginners. Content for beginners is always going to be the primary focus of the thing, right? I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. Like, while I try to craft this show for people of all levels And like, I mean, I talked about Wicca in the military for like 10 minutes this episode. Like, beginners do not give a shit about that. Well, I mean, unless they're in the military, then they give a shit about it. But like, a regular beginner does not really care, right? That is a community issue. So I try to keep the show focused on people of all levels. But the fact is, I will always be doing episodes that are explainers for people who are new to topics, right? Like, I didn't do an episode on law of attraction because, well, I mean, I'm sure there are experienced witches who didn't know the stuff in there, but like, that is also meant for someone who's never learned about it before, right? So the problem is that this bleeds over to social media, right? So the content that does well on these platforms is both aesthetically driven and designed for beginners. What that means, though, is that a lot of the content creators don't do deeper stuff. There is no deep history being involved because unlike beginner books, like you can do within a beginner book, a book like Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler, like you can do that in a beginner list. You can't put that in a 3-minute TikTok. So not only is stuff focused for beginners, it becomes shallower and shorter. These platforms, like, even though, I mean, TikTok can do up to 10 minutes now, but if you're, I don't understand, I have never watched a TikTok video that was 10 minutes and watched the whole thing. I don't want to hold my phone up. That's not what that platform's for. Long videos are for big screens. Short videos are for short screens. Long video go on long screen. Short video go on short screen. That's how this works. If you disagree with me, you're a bad person. Oh. I'm right. And I should say it. And the content that does well on these platforms is the short content. So let's be very clear. Like, the stuff that goes viral, the stuff that goes around a lot, that is stuff that is like short. On TikTok currently, it's stuff that's slightly over a minute because that's where you can get monetized. But there's a reason why I've never bothered monetizing my TikTok. I qualify for their creator rewards platform, or whatever the heck they're currently calling their money stuff for that. I qualify for all that stuff, but I've never applied to join because I do not want to ever think about that. Anyways, that is the world we're living in, right? And so when a concept like chaos witchcraft becomes popular in this environment where everything is shallow, very aesthetic driven, and without a long history to understand that words had historical meaning and that our community has like a history now. Like, I mean, I understand that the modern witchcraft movement is less than 100 years old, really. I mean, like, what the movement we have now, while there's some roots that happen earlier, the truth is, we are what we are. But there is a history to that, right? There is a history to that, and it is getting lost, and so words are losing meaning. And so I'm just saying that is a problem, and I do not know how to fix it. It's also a problem with the queer community right now, where you get a lot of younger queer people who don't whose introductions to queer spaces are online. They don't go to like real life queer spaces, and they often don't understand the history of the community because they are largely engaging in social media platforms, and those social media platforms are designed for not just a lack of depth, but also outrage. It's not great. It's kind of bad. Social media was a mistake. It should not be outlawed. However, it would be sure nice if a tornado hit every single Facebook server. I don't upload any of this stuff to a Facebook. I don't upload anything to a Meta-owned platform, do I? No, I don't. I have a Facebook page. You can follow me at facebook.com/bsfreewitchcraft. Please don't execute me, Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this. I mean, I kind of know where I'm going with this, but it's just most importantly, hey, y'all, chaos witchcraft and eclectic witchcraft are different things. If eclectic witchcraft is more suited for what you want to do, because frankly, it has way less mental gymnastics than required. That's not a criticism of. It's not a criticism of chaos witchcraft. It's just harder. It's harder to do for a lot of people. Getting yourself in that mental framework, in that headspace, is hard for most people. So if you can do it, good on you. Like, yay, but I can't. I've tried. I can't. All right. So I think that is enough on these two very different topics. I do want to thank you guys for joining me again. Please remember, I need your questions. I desperately want to talk about whatever you want me to talk about. Frankly, it's how I usually come up with half the ideas that I'm going to do over the course of the year on this show. I want your questions. I want your comments. I want your concerns. If you've got a criticism for me, tell me. If you've got an idea that you want to float in front of the audience, tell me. If you've got a question, ask me. bsfreewitchcraft.com/contact. Go to the forum. Send me what you've got. I want diversity here. And inclusion of your questions. All right, so this show is, of course, brought to you by our lovely patrons on Patreon who got to listen to this episode a whole week early. For just $1 a month, you could have been one of those lucky ducky people listening to me rant and ramble about two very different topics for, however long this episode is. I don't know. I'm going to cut some stuff out of this recording, so who knows what the final run length is going to be. But you could do that for just $1 a month. And you can find that Patreon at patreon.com/TRAEGORN. That is patreon.com/Tregorn. I want to give a shout out to people at the $10 level. Lindsay Dosey, Claire Dennis, Pamela Stariak, Elder Gamble, Badass Babe. And remember also the people at that $10 level, before giving me to say their lovely names, do get free ebooks of all of my novels. That's just a perk. People at the $5 level get a book of 1 year after it comes out. And people at the $1 level, I already told you, they get the episode early. There's also some bonus Patreon content for paid patrons. Additionally, if you don't have money to support the show, consider joining as a free member on the Patreon, because occasionally there are unique announcements that come out. The Patreon is not just for this show, it is for all of my stuff. So if you want to find out about other creative projects that I'm doing, like my comics or my novels, it's a great place to follow, to get updates on that stuff too. Although I will admit most of the content is focused on this show, because this is the thing you guys are paying attention to. No one watches this on YouTube, but a bunch of people listen to the audio, and Patreon's mostly you people. So witches take over everything in my life, and that is fine and dandy, because I am one of you. If you want to follow the show and follow me on social media and keep track of other stuff I'm doing, or just poke at the show stuff, you can follow me on Blue Sky at traegorn.bsky.social. You can follow me on Tumblr, which is my big one. That's where I am most of the time, traegorn.tumblr.com. You can follow the show on YouTube. If you want the video versions, the video versions of the show go up on YouTube and Spotify. So there's Spotify, you'll just have to search for, but YouTube is youtube.com, and then the username is at bsfreewitchcraft. It is also, I do have a personal YouTube channel where I post shorts that are like my TikTok. So you can find me on TikTok at TRAEGORN. And then if you want to watch my non-witchcraft shorts, if I do a witchcraft short, it goes up on BS Free Witchcraft and on my TikTok. But if I do a non-witchcraft short, it goes on the at TRAEGORN YouTube channel that I've had since like 2006. And you can, if you want to watch like old 3DO videos that I made like almost 20 years ago. You can watch those on my on my at TREGOR and YouTube channels. Please remember when watching an old video what year that video was made. I probably have things to apologize for that I have no memory of. And I'm too afraid to look. Anyways, also, again, remember, you can pre-order my new book, The Perfect Host. It's coming out August 10th. Or you can read the earlier books in the series, The Witch and the Rose, Bloody Damn Right, Shadow Casting, and Buried Memories, which are all out now and available on Kindle, Kobo, direct ebook sales through my Patreon, and through the Patreon shop, and also on paperback, on really anywhere. You can buy this book. You can buy these books in any bookstore in the in many places around the world. So buy my books. Also, they're on Nook, but nobody cares about that. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining me yet again. Again, remember, send me your questions by July 10th. I'm just going to send me your questions by July 10th. If you want to talk to me directly, really the best way to do it is to join our Discord. You can find an invite for that at nerdandtie.com/Discord, or join our very sleepy, slow forums from the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network at nerdandtie.social. I know that no one's going to do that, but I'm really trying to push us onto independent platforms. Centralized is bad in this day and age, folks, so, we gotta do what we gotta do. I want to thank you guys. And remember, you can find more shows like this at nerdandtie.com. And I just, I want you guys to know that as much as I'm stressed out, and I know you're stressed out, we're going to be okay, because we're going to make sure we're okay. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to fight the problems. We're going to stand up for the vulnerable around us. If we have privilege, we're going to use it to protect those who don't have it, and with their consent and based off of how they want us to do that. Just trying to make sure I'm not saying dumb blanket statements here. And remember, Magicians, dirt in our fingernails, brick in our hands. And this motto feels more appropriate every fucking year. I'll talk to you next month.